Alright, I want to repeat very last few lines that we learned yesterday. Due to the fact that there's so much subtlety there that is so completely out of the standard system that we are oriented with, that we may completely misinterpret and miss the whole point. I want to go back again, and since we learned it once, so when we reviewed it in the whole month, we'll see if there is a correction necessary, we'll recognize where to make that correction. They're talking about the principle of Nasa Koidem Nishma. Let's start inside at the end of the fifth line from the beginning of the second section of page Kuf Nun Vav.
What's the word between Nasa and Nishma?
What?
What's the word between Nasa and Nishma?
Koidem.
Koidem?
Precedes it before. Nishma is a normal process between, what we want to put it, between two people, between a commander and an underling. Any relationship that one will follow the direction of another one, there has to be need for Nishma. First you have to hear what he's saying, and then turn around and follow through and do it. There's a new principle presented that by AYIN there is in their relationship with the Meibesh, there's another approach to the whole relationship. Another principle behind it. Another principle that correlates even to Meibesh. That can be described in this upside down inference. Nasa Koidem Nishma. Nasa precedes Nishma. Clearly, there cannot be an actual asiyah means to do, without first hearing what needs to be done. So what is the significance of Nasa Koidem Nishma? If we reflect on it, which is an absolute necessity. When you say Nasa Koidem Nishma, we're not talking about a practical action. There's nothing, it cannot be a practical action because you don't know what to do. What then does it mean? It's a certain stance, a certain dedication, a certain sense of relationship that is described by this presentation of Nasa Koidem Nishma. Once we recognize that we're not talking about a practical thing, we're talking about a conceptual relationship, then we can begin to understand the influence of it. He is ready to do, not because of what he was told to do. He is ready to do it because he recognizes the Baal Orot, the source of this command, the one who has the will, as it is still within his own orientation, his own self-knowledge, that he wants such and such. The Yid seeks to relate to Hashem at that level. Not after the command has been pronounced. But the command as it is being formed within the Medrash. Insert Baruch. Therefore, by him, there is a command even before the command was issued. Because there is an inherent will by the Medrash. His submission is to that will. So he already really has a command, not a pronounced command, not an express command. But there is the will of the commander. He is dedicated to the will of the commander. When he comes to do something as a result of the commander's expressing a directive, he's not doing it solely because he was commanded to do something. He is doing it principally because the commander wants me to do this. This principle, this kind of a relationship, that because the commander wants me to do this, wants me to do it, not told me, but wants. This is a state of self-negation, of self-nullification, of a caliber, of a level which is very difficult even to describe. Perhaps I should add another insert over here. The fact that he is dedicated to the Baal to the will of the commander, to the will as it is still by the commander, is not due to the fact that he appreciates that the commander's will is worthy of obedience. Because if this were the case, then again, there is a process, an intellectual process in his own mind, convincing him that he should follow through, that he should connect to this. The real reason, the real principle, the power behind this dedication is not any expressed or conscious intent even on the part of the commander. The commander himself, as he is within his own level, his own reality. That is what I am dedicated to. His will translates in being my will. Not his will is obeyed by me, but we are so united that my will is totally eliminated as a separate will. The principle of bitul, which we are constantly using the word bitul. We pointed out and tried to point out many times the difference between yichud and bitul. Bitul literally means self-nullification. putting oneself aside completely. It's unimportant what I feel, unimportant what I think. There is a command. That is what I reflect. I reflect by my presence here, the presence of the command. I want to go to the bottom line on page Kufman. Hine be'emes, behold, be'emes in absolute truth. It's mentioned, contemplated several times. The Rebbe uses this introduction to a statement by saying be'emes in truth. Of course, it's in truth. You're not lying. What does be'emes denote? Be'emes denotes the principle that I'm aware of this and I recognize this reality not due to my intellectual understanding, not due by any kind of interaction. But rather by me recognizing that there is such thing as an absolute truth. An absolute truth does not come to the forefront by being expressed. The absolute truth is being identified and recognized. Because absolute truth has an absolute presence, whether or not it is expressed. That's what absolute means. So when we speak about something that is on that caliber, on that level, it is true because it is true, not because something has been expressed and something is intended to be accomplished. Be preceded by saying be'emes. And here is something which I must say, and please, let's try and understand and relate to this. We become aware of the Creator as a result of the fact that He created the world, He creates the world. This is how we become aware. This is not what identifies Him Himself. He Himself is not defined as the Creator. This is not what makes Him, so to speak, be. The Creator, the reality of the Creator is, as we said before, an absolute reality. Absolute means there is not the moment where it comes forth. there is not the possibility of it not being there. Because absolute means. The emes, the absolute, the real truth is that reality is not even being created. It's a statement of the fact that there is a creator, that there is a truth. This is its very beginning. How does the Torah begin? The Torah expresses what our relationship with neighborship is. It does not begin by saying Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You should know that there is a God. It doesn't begin with that. It begins by saying that B'nei Shechbor came to Shemayim V'Zorah. The Shemayim V'Oretz, this which we take complete for granted, this is the, so to speak, the absolute reality. There is not a beginning or an end to that.
Shemayim Va'aretz is the absolute reality.
That's the way in our orientation. In our orientation, this is the beginning of everything.
But in actuality, what we just said.
Actuality is Bereshit Bara Elokim in the Shemayim V'Oretz. Elokim precedes that which we experience as if the absolute reality. Anything that we conceptualize is conceptualized within the reality of Shemayim V'Oretz. Shemayim V'Oretz we don't conceptualize. This is, so to speak, the reality itself. So the Torah tells us, please understand, the Shemayim V'Oretz is Bara Elokim. The real beginning is, if such can be identified, is Elokim. Elokim is not beginning of being. We don't know Elokim. Elokim is not proven to us by the fact that there is a creation. Elokim is what we said is the absolute truth. The emes, absolute truth, is present not by virtue of its manifestation. Whether it's manifest or not. Manifest is its statement to the outside. Its absolute truth is an insider's presence.
And that's deeper than Shemayim Va'aretz.
That's precedes one. This is Bara Elokim, the Shemayim V'Oretz.
And thus, our reality is deeper than Shemayim Va'aretz or not?
Yes. Our reality, our recognition of reality, is that we can recognize that Shemayim V'Aretz is a creation. Borei Elokim is the Shemayim V'Aretz. No phenomenon that there is begins from not being, from an emes, from the truth presence. An absolute presence. This is Elokim. Elokim, the presence of Elokim is not identified and not known by manifestation. It is a be'emes presence. If I can take the word, it exists not within the realm of existence. Existence is not a means of describing its presence.
Again, existence is not a means of describing the Elokim, describing this deeper reality, right?
Mm-hmm. The phenomenal thing in this be'emes concept is that in fact in the neshama there is the cognizance of this be'emes. This is what we're saying over here. Nasa Kodim Nishma is dedicated to the be'emes, that which is there because of emes, not because it's manifest. And this is what the Rebbe says on the last line. Hu koyach ne'elam. It's a koyach ne'elam. It is a very subtle koyach, not a manifest koyach. It's not a presence because it manifests. It's present while it is still in concealment. Before it expresses anything, it is present. This is the type of dedication and bittul that a Yid is capable of. To want and to seek to connect to that which is before existence. Existence is the beginning of my personal experience. But I want to be part of and fulfill the process as it is true in truth, on the truth level rather than on the existential level. This is why, as we learned the whole time, there is such a thing as Mesilas Nefesh. What's Mesilas Nefesh mean? If you Mesilas Nefesh, you're not going to be there. So what's the point? What's the point? You're not going to be there. What do you accomplish? What kind of statement is it? The statement is that there is the presence prior to presence. There's an absolute element in this presence. This absolute excuse me, aspect of this presence is truly omnipresent. In word present over here is incorrect, but that's the only way they can express it.
And what does that answer about Messias Nefesh if there is an absolute emes before there's a Messias?
So what's your question?
So why does he give up his self? What's
Give
the
up a functioning level.
Meaning to say that even our presence, there's a presence to our presence before our Messias. This is what's said.
Yeah, but that presence is not a presence that we can define in our terms. It's not a presence that we can tangibly identify with. This is a presence called a koyach ne'elam, not an identifiable presence. This is what I said, be'emes, u'koyach ne'elam. In truth, this is not even a functioning koyach. It's a koyach that does not express itself. So the Rebbe goes on and explains, and this is very important. After having said all that, the question remains, how are we involved in this koyach ne'elam? So this is a koyach ne'elam that is provided to us by our Creator. So the whole performance, the whole effect of it is due to the Creator's doing. So how are we involved? Be'emes, in truth, it is the koyach ne'elam. It's an extremely subtle koyach that we have no way of identifying with it at all. However, yet still, therein too, there is the element of rotzah. Okay, this is to say that it's subtle is a superfluous statement. This koyach ne'elam, it's a koyach ne'elam, totally subtle, concealed koyach. The thing there is an element of rotzah. Here's where we have a little bit of a challenge, a lot of a challenge, to understand what type of entity is this rotzah. Rotzin and oineg are both what we call absolute koiches. Higher than conscious identification. They do not come to the forefront by consciously pursuing them. This is something which is inherent in the nefesh. between these two, of Rotzen and Oineg, even though Oineg is, in a certain sense, deeper than Rotzen, but to express the truth of the Nefesh, the truth, the Emes, is Rotzen even more than Oineg. Because Oineg implies that there is a personal experience. Rotzen is completely free of any personal experience. Rotzen is the will, that which connects me to that which I cannot really define. In Oineg, there is inevitably a subject. You have Oineg due to this experience. In Rotzen, there is not a subject necessarily.
In Rotzen, there's not a what?
A subject. What do you want? There is no what. The very fact that you are a real entity has an inherent Rotzen. That inherent Rotzen is already a statement that there is a truth. You said many, huh?
That sounds like saying truth is the desired object.
No. He doesn't have an identification of what he wants. He has a want because he is part of the truth. Because truth, this is why I said this every time. Please, he said, we have to understand that there is presence before presence. That the real truth is before the whole idea of presence surfaces. The real truth is the author, is the Rishis Bon Alikim of the Shemayim Moritz. As real Shemayim Moritz is, Elikim precedes it. And this preceding of Elikim is something which is part and parcel of our own orientation, our own Koyach Nelam. Koyach Nelam, we cannot define it, we cannot identify it and explain it. But this is how we are. It's almost correct to say that the Koyach Nelam is, I want to want. Why do I want to want? Because wanted, Rotzen, identifies me with this reality, that there is a reality. There is no subject in this Rotzen. So the Rebbe says like this. Be'emes, hu koyach nelam. Going down to its essence, it's a koyach nelam. It is not an identifiable koyach. It is so subtle that you can go right through it and not even notice that it's there. But yet still, therein there's a Rotzen. So even though this is a Koyach Nelam, there's a Rotzen there is. What is this Rotzen? What does it mean? There's a Rotzen to be connected to this Koyach Nelam, to this unidentifiable Koyach Nelam. The Hu Inyan, at the end of that line, which is the principle expressed in these words. Kabbalas oil malchus yizborich berotzi. Acceptance of the yoke of malchus yizborich Hashem's kingdom, kingship, rulership, reign. Berotzi, accepting that malchus, that reign, berotzi. I want to be a subject of this kingdom. Not because of anything. It is to him that I'm a subject. Although this relationship is an element, there isn't anything that correlates you to the king. This is what the Rebbe says.